Japan are a team you do not want to play against because
This is McClaren Performance.
Hello and welcome back to the McClaren Performance podcast. Finally done with all the knockout stages, finally to the round of 16. So today we're going to talk about our predictions of those games, especially with England as well, how they're going to do against Senegal, how every other team going to do as well, and who's going to make it to the round of 8. So let's just get started with that. How are you today, Dad?
Yeah, I'm doing great. We've had a break. We're back in training tomorrow, back in camp. Oh, yeah. Going to Spain, Cadiz for that, couple of games over there. Bit of a trimmed down squad, obviously. Some of our players still involved. Some having a rest. Christian Eriksen will be coming back after a rest. The others are still in the tournament. And looking forward to going back to work tomorrow. And during the break, been just catching snippets, watching North England, but catching snippets of other teams. And as I always say, it's not about the group stage. It's just about getting through. Don't worry about performances. Just get through. And the knockout stage is, this is it. It's when the World Cup for me really begins. And you need a lot of things, and especially luck at the right time in knockout stages. But yeah, looking forward to it, and looking forward to watching England on Sunday.
Have you enjoyed having a little bit of a break outside of things? I don't even think you told me you're going away to Spain soon, but you had a nice little week off, and that has that been a nice getaway?
It was. It's been very hectic. I think, you know, as everybody's been saying, this is a strange time to be playing a World Cup. Not used to it. And it's strange watching it. And what the Premier League did was cram a lot of games and also European games into a short period of time. And it was manic. It really was manic. We had, after the international break, we had so many games, like one every 2 or 3 days for 4 or 5 weeks. So we were ready for the rest. I don't know how the players are actually feeling going to a World Cup, getting a week's break and then playing. But certainly the coaches and the work that we've put in, everybody deserved a rest. Nice to watch some of our players playing and doing very well.
Yeah.
But you know, as I say, you rest for a week, but you're looking forward to getting back on the training field, working towards what will be a League Cup game, EFL Cup game against Burnley coming up, and then obviously the start of the Premier League season again on the 27th of December. But a lot of work before that.
I got to say, you must be buzzing about Rashford. I mean, we were talking about, it's almost like we're the best at predictions here. I had a little quote from you talking about how there's going to be more to come from Rashford, and straight away 2 goals in the next game against Wales, and kind of similar. I was thinking a similar goal again coming from the right for the second one, put it onto his left foot again. I think taking more time in the box than usually just to figure out exactly how he wants to do. I think we were talking about that last time. It's kind of showing a bit in his game. And he did well. The free kick was unbelievable as well, on top of that, to be fair. And I think on track now, joint top scorer for a World Cup at the moment. So he's having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at all the United players, delighted with the form that all of them are showing in the cameo roles, and especially Marcus coming on. And he's been doing that. You know, I think we talked about it a lot going in at pre-season, going at Manchester United, and you don't know till you're actually in the building, face to face with the players, exactly what is going on. So everybody speculates, all the pundits talk this, that, the other. Everybody talks about, you know, this season, bad season, all the players, Manchester United in crisis. But I think I remember talking to you, and after 6 weeks in pre-season, they're a delight to work with, all of the players.
I remember.
And you know, and I remember Rashford especially training. I remember saying to you, wow, in training, I've never seen anybody who runs so powerfully, so strong, so direct and quick as Marcus does. And at that speed and that power going forward, to be able to control the ball as he does and then finish with a strike on goal is something that we used to see every day. And you could see him the pre-season games. And at the end of the pre-season, I always remember commenting that if we get the players smiling, I was reading a little quote in a book about Pep Guardiola and talking about certain players and some players and keeping everybody happy. And he's saying, as long as players stay positive, as long as they stay positive, they're always going to impact. They're always going to be ready to play. And when they're not positive, when they're not smiling, when they've got a cloud over their head, other people who are positive, who are smiling, who are looking forward to training and playing, will jump over them. And I read that quote and I thought that was so true. I've seen that so many times over the years, and especially during pre-season and going through adversity at the start of the season and then coming through that and finally getting the players and everybody buying into what Eric is wanting. I've seen, and especially with Marcus and Anthony Martial, they're the two that I look at. When they've got a smile on their face, believe you me, there is nothing stopping them players in training.
Yeah.
And when I see that, when I see them smiling, I know they're positive. I know they're going to perform. And you saw that from Marcus coming on against him. You saw it from his first touch. He was so positive. Wasn't shrinking, wasn't, not impacting. He was ready to impact. He impacted. First 3 touches, he scores a goal.
Yeah.
And then he's given his opportunity against Wales. And it was difficult for him and Foden, I think, coming into that game. The cohesion wasn't quite right with the team. You could see that. But once Marcus, and again, it reminded me, lined up, and Friday after training, United was always, the players would line up for free kicks. And they'd always take free kicks. And it'd be a competition between the people taking it. Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen, Marcus, Jadon Sancho, Licha, Martinez. There were about 6 or 7 players would always take free kicks. So I'd always score them, always mark it down. And always the players were so competitive to be in that session, to be the one that scored the most goals. You can't get them off the field. Eric's shouting. Come on, Bussy's going to leave in a minute. We're going away. Come on, get off this field. Stop taking free kicks. But they practice all the time. And I don't think we've scored one yet for United. and I remember that being lined up. And the first free kick they got, Marcus was lined up to take it. And I thought, brilliant. I have seen so many of these free kicks. And it's a perfect position for him to take it. Yeah. And he can score these kind of goals when he's smiling, when he's positive. And no one, I think it was Trippier or even Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is generally very good as well in the training sessions in free kicks, but he didn't take it. I was disappointed. And I was disappointed in Marcus because I thought, this is your opportunity. Come on, take it. Anyway, he got an opportunity in the second half beginning, same position, same place, a little bit closer. And I thought, I looked at him, he grabbed the ball, and I knew he was the one who was going to take it. And credit to him. We always say, have the courage, take the ball, score a goal. And he took the free kick. And it was just reminding me of the Friday afternoons, late on, all the finishing, all the practice. There it goes. And it set him off and it set England off into actually dominating, controlling the rest of the game. Okay, scoring 3 goals, could have scored more, but actually actually cruising. And one of the things I really liked is Harry Maguire's relationship, combination, partnership with Stones.
Yeah.
I think it's very good. And I think they've cruised through the 3 games. Okay, might not have been tested a lot, but they've cruised through them very comfortably. And, you know, the US, although we weren't very good against USA, I don't think we're ever going to concede a goal.
Yeah.
And Maguire and Stones have been so dominant. And I think in both boxes, yes, defending set plays, and every defensive set, Harry has headed away. And 4, he's always got his head on the ball. So I think he's really excelling. Fantastic to see Marcus get the 2 goals. And I saw the pictures the next morning of England training, and he was training with Bellingham. And the pair of them were like 2 11, 12-year-old kids messing about with the ball, just doing what they want.
Yeah.
Kicking, flicking, heading, having a laugh, having a joke. And I went, now there's the sign of 2 players who are positive, who are smiling, who enjoy playing in football. And that's what Mike said. These are the moments. This is why I play football. And you saw 2 players exactly the same. And I think that's going through the England squad. Now they've reached the knockout stages. They've got it. It really reminded me of when I saw Belgium go out and Germany go out. No team cohesion at all. No intensity, no togetherness, no spirit. And it doesn't matter how skillful, how technically brilliant you may be, what talent you've got. It matters about cohesion, about togetherness, about spirit. It's about intensity. It's about playing for each other and enjoying that. It's about not just the 11 players. It's about in tournaments. It's about the squad. Yes, it's about rotation, but it's about hierarchy, which you've always talked about a lot. Knowing your place, knowing that, yes, I'm a starter. 1, I might be in the middle fighting to get on, but I'm going to be there and impacting. And you cannot have the 3rd group, which is just totally out of it and not impacting and not good for the group. You cannot have that. And it's just showed with the Germany and Belgium going out that their squads in them 3 groups, they had too many in the 3rd group. Whereas you see England, they all look in group 1 and group 2 because the 11 who play, Saka must have been so disappointed. Grealish came on, must be so disappointed. And Sterling must be, because they played so well in them first 2 games. Yet, you know, people have come in, taken a play, and the squad looks so together.
I think the key thing in what you kind of touched on there, you talked about the hierarchy of a team being really important. But the psychological safety aspect, where you talk about teams like Belgium and Germany, you can get that impression that they don't really have that freedom. And what you talked about in training there, almost training like children, to me, that speaks of kind of that, having that freedom to express yourself, to not worry so much about mistakes, but allow for that creativity and everything like that. It's something that helps massively, I think, when you say get to a round of 16, where there's such a weight and importance on the result. You need that result to progress. But if you can allow for within that, a team to express themselves on the pitch, to express themselves in training, to be psychologically safe in terms of they don't take any risks doing that, I think you have a fantastic team dynamic like you talked about, and you get greater consistency in your performances. It's kind of just that, again, that relationship between the external and the internal, that relationship between the result and the actual process of what you're doing yourself, and distinguishing between the 2, not putting so much weight on the external result. For England, not putting so much weight on the external result. Right, we have to win this World Cup, but more so focus on the right process, the right culture and environment, the right consistency in mind, and the right consistency in actions also. It's epitomised really by Rashford, like what you talked about. Someone who is happy, who's smiling, who's free to create, and the things that they're doing, experimenting in training, regardless of Man United taking free kicks, they're free to do that and test that out for England on a pitch of that size as well. So, and that leads to results like that. You see an expression in the way that he's playing now, and much more freedom than he had before. Like you say, he's looking small. He's looking very expressive, very much like he wants to do something. I think that comes from a foundation of being, psychologically safe and culturally sound, really. That we'll move on to, which we wanted to do right at the start. We rambled a lot of different stuff there. I think the best thing to do is to go around the 16 games and kind of make our predictions on what we think the results are going to be. I think it'd be interesting to go back and see what we think of that when we actually predict things and see what the results actually are. I think, well, we touched on England there a little bit, so I guess we'll start with England Senegal. I watched a little bit the highlights of the last game. I thought they were a good team. I think they miss, of course, they miss having Mane, but they look like a fantastic team anyway, and probably coming through to where they obviously are going to be a good team. And it feels like this, regardless of what team you face, around the 16 game is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for England anyway. Do you think, and for what reasons do you think that might be a bit of a challenge for England?
Well, they're the African nations champions and beating very, very good Senegal side. But these African teams, dangerous. Dangerous. I remember my first World Cup, 2002, and playing Cameroon in a friendly, and never really coming across African teams as such. Yes, African players, but not teams as such. And we played Cameroon, and we were there in the tunnel, and they were huge athletes, strong, and they had the shirts all the way up, so all their arms were showing. I remember looking at Paul Scholes stood next to one of them and thinking, oh my word, we're going to get killed in this game. And individually, physically, and some technique as well, they were excellent. They were excellent, but didn't have the tactical nous or that game intelligence or that organization. But I said, oh my word, I've just seen the future. In 20 years, some African team is going to really set the world on fire, and they're really going to be competing in the top world stage, World Cups. And they're getting there. I think it's taking longer than I thought it would. There's two African teams through. And it's only a matter of time before they really, get organized, get disciplined, get some processes into the football. Because when they go back to Africa, the conditions in which they're playing are not ideal and not what they're used to playing in Europe, which the majority of them are doing now. And you've seen the whole tournament, especially the small teams, you've seen that really, really come to the fore and improving, because the better players from the smaller nations, whether they're European, African, even Asian, and you've seen the likes of South Korea, today going through, they're playing in top leagues now. They're playing in Spain, they're playing in Germany, they're playing in the Premier League. And it just shows you that the way that you improve from being a youngster, get into playing professional, get into the senior national teams, is having strong competition. That's teams and that's individuals. And what these players are doing is they are getting competition now. They're playing in the top leagues, and you see they're improving, and they're taking back to their nations good practice, good processes. And they're being more professional. And therefore, you can see that football's improving. And that's why I've been impressed with the African nations and the Asian countries, because, as you know, I worked with FIFA for 3 years on a massive, huge scale project, studying every nation in the world, how they improve. Little Johnny, little Jenny, from 5 years old, into the senior national teams.
Mm.
And that report was so extensive, took 2 years in the making, but at the end of it, we could see how every country was developing their players.
Mm.
And that's not just boys, that's girls, that's men, that's women. And you see how the game is improving in both genders, but now in smaller countries that are taking on board the likes of what England, Germany, Belgium, Spain, France, Italy, what they've been doing for years and years. These countries, smaller nations, have got a thirst for that knowledge, and they're taking it on board. And that's why, and the expansion, what FIFA wanted to do, and the reporters showed that they want 48 teams in the World Cup. And so they want the top 50 nations. That's why we did the report, the top 50 nations to be concertinaed. So it wasn't the top 10, and they are so far away from the, say, 40 to 50 teams. They want the 40 to 50s to get higher and higher and bring that forward so that the top 50 are very competitive against each other. And you're seeing that in this World Cup, and I'm sure in future World Cups, and the progress that these smaller nations in Asia, in Africa are making, that gap is going to close. And FIFA, the project, and that's ongoing now. FIFA are helping these nations, smaller nations, through funding, through expertise, through all sorts of things that they can provide. They're helping these nations to make World Cups like this one more competitive.
It's interesting you say that, because I thought while you're talking, I looked to see the Senegal kind of starting 11 and talking about players they are developing. I mean, they got Mendy in goal, obviously, who plays for Chelsea, a quality keeper. Koulibaly as well, quality defender. Gay as well, I believe, for Everton at the moment. Sarr, is he at Watford at the moment? I think Sarr's at Watford.
Yeah.
Sarr's at Watford. They have players which you wouldn't imagine Senegal would actually have players, say, playing in the Premier League and Championship and things like that, but they are developing quite a solid kind of side in what these African countries like you talk about. However, we'll go straight to kind of predicting who's going to win that game, and I can't imagine we're going to predict anywhere outside of England winning it, really. I'm going to say Senegal are going to win. I think England's the one for me.
It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
And what these African teams are, they're unpredictable. Sometimes you just don't quite know what they are actually doing.
Yeah.
And I think England obviously will come out on top. I think that, they got momentum at the present moment, but it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be easy. And I do know, I remember playing Colombia, and that was, I think, 2002 in that World Cup in the knockout stages. And I think it was a 1-0. Beckham scored a free kick and we scraped through.
Yeah.
And I think England will do exactly the same. I think they've just got too much at the top end. We've got too many goal scorers.
Yeah.
And Senegal without Sadio Mane haven't quite got that quality of goal scorer that England have got. And that ultimately wins your football matches. Yes, you need to be solid at the back, keep clean sheets, look organised, but you have to have people who can score and not rely on one, but 2 or 3.
Oh, so I watched a bit of Senegal there, and I thought they had chances that they really should have put away in the game they had before, and they didn't really. I thought they in need of a really solid striker. But anyway, we'll carry on. England for that game. We'll go next to Netherlands, USA. Talking about USA, I thought we were criticising England a little bit. A lot of people were, but I thought USA were just very good. In terms of not going forward, because we never looked like we were going to concede necessarily, but let's say defensively, but I think in the way they kept their shape with regards to putting off a lot of what England could do going forward, I thought they worked really hard, I guess, off the ball to kind of nullify the game. That's why it was a frustrating game to watch for us, because it was just, you just knew nothing was going to happen. And you knew it was a 0-0 game. And that was in large part because of USA and the work that they'd done. That's obviously a team that's coming up against Netherlands, and Louis van Gaal. He's kind of put a lot of, he seemed quite strict in what he's done in terms of what he's implementing in Netherlands at the moment. I haven't watched them play, but obviously doing very well to get to the round of 16. What's your guess out of that game? Who's looking better out of those teams?
I mean, I love the intensity of the US team.
Mm.
I think that was the key thing. The pressed in a 4-4-2, and I think England are benefiting from playing a 4-2-3-1. I think they 1-2-3-4 with Bellingham as well. We've got five players who are capable of scoring goals. When they play a 5 and a 4 and a 3, we've only got a front 3 who are capable of doing that. So already the chances are up that you're going to win the game. Whether you play Bellingham with Rice, that kind of makes it more attacking, but also more vulnerable. If you play Henderson, he's more defensive, and that organisation that you might need. I think that's the tricky decision for Gareth in that midfield. But in that midfield for the US, I thought that their energy was McKennie and Adams. I think it was energy was unbelievable. Covered so much ground, so energetic, and they pressed. They played a 4-4-2 pressing. They were so compact. They were so organised, so intense. They just nullified England and made England look pedestrian, whereas England were all that intensity, compact, energetic in the first game against Iran, second half against Wales. That, I actually saw an American team that didn't have anything up the top end to win the game. They were never really going to score.
Yeah.
And these are developing teams and nations now that need to develop in the final third.
Yeah.
And that's what let the USA down, was that final third work. And why I think Holland will go through is because they've got players in the final third who can open up the game and score goals. The boy Kakbo of PSV has been magnificent. And is showing his quality in this World Cup. I expect Holland to go through, but not without having it all their own way.
I think I kind of agree with that. Just looking at their sort of starting 11, the names that they've got within that, it's a really strong team. I think it's the way you talk about USA, it seems like a team, like a lot of countries who are putting much more focus on football and trying to develop in that way, especially when they see the stage of the World Cup. I think USA will be a team that will develop in the future to be one much more threatening than they are now, even though, to be fair, not that bad. So I agree with that. Netherlands, I think, going through there. We'll move on to the next game. We'll also talk about each game for about half an hour.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's me rambling. Sorry, Josh.
It's always the same, flipping it.
I know.
Next one, Argentina, Australia. Australia, I think, I wouldn't have a surprise necessarily that they've got so far. They've done incredibly well with what they've done. And Argentina, I think, with Messi, obviously, they're expected to do well. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for them, I believe, kind of similar to what we talked about. I believe you talked about the Copa America and the performance by both teams in that final. And I'll let you expand more on that, but you gave the impression you weren't so impressed with the way they were playing. I mean, they're doing okay at the moment, and I still think Brazil, like a fantastic threat. They're playing as we're recording tonight. But Argentina as well, looking good at the moment. What do you think of that game? Who's coming out on top of that?
I think Argentina will win that. I think momentum now. They had a real scare in that first game. And I just think that, that was an unbelievable performance from Saudi Arabia. And I remember seeing them. They're another nation in the in that Asian countries that's really progressing. I watched them in the Arab Cup competition or warm-up in Qatar a year ago, and they played their under-21 team in this tournament against the other top teams like Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, who eventually won it, and was very, very impressed with them. And that was the 21. So I thought the senior team's going to be very good, and they were. And tactically got it spot on. Anyway, Argentina came through that, won the next game against Mexico, and then I think the key thing in the third game was that Messi didn't score, and there were two other goal scorers. They're too reliant on Messi, And Messi does take away 2 or 3 players from the opposition because they need 2 or 3 players to stop him. And usually when you stop him, they haven't got other goal scorers. But now, they've got players who scored 2 goals. I think Alvarez from Man City was one of them. So I think they've just got too much now for an Australian team that has done very well to get there. Again, like the US, very, very organised. Graham Arnold, Rennie Mullenstein will have that team organised so well. And that's why they've got through, because of their organisation and the processes, not so much their individual ability. So I think Argentina will just have too much individual ability for them, but Australia have had a great run.
I think I agree with that as well. Argentina looking like a good side, regardless of Australia doing so well. We'll move on to the next one. Next one is very interesting. France versus Poland. And that's one where if we talk about cohesion, everything like that, it not really lived up to their best, France, in recent tournaments. More so recently, the past few years. Against Poland, the side looking good with Lewandowski up front. I think that's going to be, to be honest, if there was any game I'm interested in watching, France-Poland probably be one of them. In my estimation, who's going to come out on top of that, I'm not entirely sure. I like France and the quality of the players that they have, but their recent history in terms of what they've been doing in tournaments, I'm not entirely sure. And Poland looking quite good at the moment. So I'm curious for your thoughts really on who's going to come out on top on that.
One thing for Poland is the reliance on Lewandowski for goals, and he's isolated up there. I've been a little bit disappointed watching them. What I've really liked is Bilic, a player who we know well from Derby, who's come through bad injuries. He's playing on loan at Birmingham, and came into the Polish team, I think, at half-time in the first game, and he was excellent. And it's great to see him back fit, playing on a stage in which he deserves. There's only one winner in France. There's only one winner.
Yeah.
And you see it from their attitude. They've learnt from other tournaments. They've got the cohesion. They've got the squad right. They don't look like they're falling out with each other. And they've got individual talents that, old and young. Giroud, the old master, still can score goals. And Mbappe, who one of the best players in the world, and is trying to take over the mantle from obviously Ronaldo or Messi, and he's using this stage to do that. So he's going to be one of them that could go all the way. France, led by Mbappe, a little bit like I remember Rooney coming through, and as long as Mbappe stays fit, we have the same with Rooney. Who got injured in 2 vital tournaments, which really killed England. If they keep Mbappe fit, they can go all the way. So France for me.
I mean, next game, not a clue really for me. Japan-Croatia. I think Japan done well recently, knocking out. Who did they knock out in?
They just beat Spain, didn't they? They beat Spain. They beat Germany, and they've shocked everybody.
Yeah.
But not shocked me. Again, when I was working with FIFA, we did the Olympics, and Japan had a team in the Olympics.
Really?
And these players, some of these players now, you see him played in that Olympic team. They were excellent. I mean, run.
Really?
Energy, intensity, organisation, team spirit, togetherness. They just, again, haven't got them individuals who can win you games. But they've got 1 or 2 now who are coming through from that Olympic team. And you've seen that. And one interesting thing, I think, when I look at this tournament is the amount of teams. I always look first, who's playing a back 4 and who's playing a back 5. And I think the first games, Japan were playing a 5. And at halftime, they changed to a 4. They did it last night against Spain. And they all of a sudden couldn't press in a five. And I always say that is the weakness of the back five. You can't press the opponent. So you have to transition very quick, which they can, but they fail to do. Once they go to a four, they started pressing Spain last night, put them in trouble, pressed the keeper, caused mistakes, and ended up winning the game. So Japan are a team you do not want to play against because they are so difficult. They might not score, but they make it so difficult. And now they're producing one or two individual players that can win games for them. So I'm impressed with them. Croatia, always play the right way. They're an aging squad. We talked about that against Belgium. Belgium were just older and not cohesive. Croatia are cohesive. They're together. They fight together as a nation. They've always done that. They'll always be a threat to anybody because of their individual ability, and got a star in Modric. And that is probably the one that I could not say who will win that game, because it's two very contrasting styles without standout players. But I do think that Japan have the capabilities of upsetting anybody.
Yeah, I'd love it to be Japan, to be fair. I think I'm going to go Japan along with you as well. The other game alongside that is Morocco-Spain. I think for me, my ignorance, so I'd probably just go for Spain. I think they're probably a much better team. And it's probably, I don't know how much there is to talk around that. It's got to obviously be Spain, hasn't it?
Again, Morocco was one of the teams that really impressed me in the Arab Cup a year ago in Qatar. And they're proving again that these Asian countries are coming through. They're really, I think Qatar, who unfortunately have had a bad World Cup, but have really set the tone in terms of aspiring Qatar, which is an incredible facility, not just for football, but for all sport. And so Qatar are pouring a lot of money into development of their youth into all sports, not just football. And Aspire is a credit to that. And they're producing now champions, not just football level, but also in terms of other sports. So, and everybody is taking on board, what the top nations are doing. And FIFA is the forefront of all this. When we was there last year, we had to do lots of presentations to the Arab countries in terms of, what kind of project we're doing, the processes, the best practices around the world. They were just thirsting for knowledge of what they were doing, and they've got the resources. What they haven't got is the competitive leagues and the players playing in them competitive leagues, say from 7, 8, 9 upwards. But once they get facilities, once they get coaches that can coach them, then they're going to come through. And so Morocco, not a surprise to me, but Spain will be too strong.
Yeah,
got too many good players, and one of them nations, I think, they got youth and experience, good combination of that, and could go all the way to the semi-finals now.
Now you mentioned Morocco, I just did look up the lineup they had recently. Some interesting players. Got Saiss from Wolves. I think he's a centre back from there. Hakimi as well. Ziyech as well. Like you said, kind of similar to the other team with Senegal we're talking about. They've got players who are actually developing, who are playing, Premier League players at the moment. So it's quite interesting. These other countries who are developing in the way that you're talking about. But of course, Spain probably a better team out of that anyway. I think they should be, but be careful. Yeah, well, that's the World Cup, innit? Always be careful. I think we've got the games playing now midway through as we're recording this for the other two fixtures, so we don't know who exactly it's going to play. By the looks of it, let's have a look. At the moment, it looks like Brazil winning that group, obviously, so then they'll be playing South Korea. and then Portugal playing Switzerland, who look like they come in second, which hopefully that stays the case as we talk about it now. But I think in both games for me, I think Brazil beating South Korea, of course, and Portugal, although not looking the best at the moment, Portugal, I think will probably still come out on top on Switzerland. But that's just my kind of guess on things. What would it be for you?
Yeah, I think the winners are the winners of that group, which is Brazil.
Yeah,
they're the favourites because they got so much talent.
Mm.
And yeah, for me, the star performer in Casemiro in that midfield.
Yeah.
You know, since he joined United, wow, what a player, and what a man, what a person, what a warrior.
Really?
You know, he didn't go straight into the team at United. Took a while to get fit. Was patient. Trained so hard every day. You know, won the Champions League 5 times. How many times the league he's won? And you know, I used to see him training, you know, with the subs who have to train the next day after if you didn't play, and he's there 100% sliding, tackling, as if it was a proper game. And once he got in the team, once he got fit, his quality is unbelievable, and that's what you're seeing in the World Cup. He's leading that, and he leads by example. Can be vocal. Can, when he talks, you listen.
Yeah.
But that Brazil team has got so many leaders, so many good players.
Yeah.
They're bound to be favourites, but still vulnerable, I think. Korea won't, I don't think, will no way hurt them. But later on, these games are going to get very interesting for Brazil.
One there being Portugal, Switzerland, and I think for me, Portugal coming out on top there. But maybe that's my ignorance of not knowing so much about Switzerland. What would your favourite be out of those two?
Careful of Switzerland because they're always there, always hard to play against, whatever tournament. But for me, Portugal are coming good. And for me, one of the star players of the tournament so far, not just because he's a Man United player, but Bruno Fernandes has been fantastic in the games. Wow. You know, he's really maturing. That's a good word. Maturing in his performances, in his demeanor. He's becoming a leader. And he's becoming a leader of that Portuguese team, which is difficult when you've got, you know, Ronaldo in there and Pepe in there, you know, experienced combative players. He is real quality, taking the ball, controlling the tempo, can score, can assist. He is really, again, another one that when he's playing with a smile on his face, he's got that passion. He's at the top of his game, and it looks like he's doing that for Portugal. So for me, Portugal are one of the outsiders for this tournament.
Brilliant. I think that's out of everyone. So who we got going through? Netherlands, Argentina, France, England. I think our surprise pick is Japan. Not much of a surprise out of Croatia, but still all the same. Spain, Brazil, and then Portugal as well. That is our predictions going forward. We've got some good reasons behind it. We'll probably be massively wrong anyway. it's always
it's tournament. It's knockout. It's knockout stages.
Exactly.
And sometimes the best teams, you know, don't win.
Exactly.
And you've got to have luck. Though that luck is being taken away more and more now with VAR and these offside things. Though I know it's taking a long time, but it's adding also a lot of injury time, which also adds to the game. You know, there's sometimes another 10 minutes on from a 90 minutes. And for the spectator, that's great because, you know, average in the Premier League is about 50 to 55 minutes, the ball in play. The Premier League issued that they wanted to actually have the ball in play a lot longer, and they're aiming for an hour. And when you have that much injury time, you're going to get that hour, and you know it's more for the spectators, the fans, to see more football and more of the ball in play than out of play.
Yeah, but what do you make of that the Japan decision with the ball almost being out, coming back in? You see the ball just over the line.
Yeah, we talked about that, and it's been debated a lot. What's in and what's out, and it's a little bit when I look at Hawkeye and tennis.
Yeah,
and sometimes I see some of them appeals and the decision, and it's sometimes you can see it on the tennis. It's less than a millimeter.
Yeah,
but it's in.
Yeah, it's in.
But it's in. And what they're saying is,
tough, innit?
It was less than a millimeter, but it was still in play.
Yeah.
So, great for Japan. Fortunate for Spain, because now they finished second and probably an easier route into the semi-finals.
Well, thank you, Dad, for another interesting conversation. It was interesting, predicting what that round of 16, who's going to win those games. Specifically, it was kind of interesting to get that insight with regards to Dad's experience working with FIFA and having a bit of insight into those smaller countries that I definitely don't have any knowledge of, and seeing really how they're developing and what's going on. It's a bit frustrating recording while there's some games going on, because I even thought Switzerland were doing all right. Now, look, they're losing 2-1. Now it's 2-2. So I don't have a clue if they're going to get through or not. But it was interesting anyway. As we said, it's so unpredictable with regards to the World Cup. I do not know what's going to happen, but that's probably the best guess you can possibly get about anything. Interesting to hear about Japan, Senegal, Morocco, countries like that, which I don't know a lot about, but clearly, and looking at the lineup and things like that, there are players that are developing, they have plans in place, and like Dad said at FIFA, I think they are learning from a lot of different countries and learning how to implement all these processes within different countries so that they can develop into much better teams, really. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. As always, like Dad said, I think he's going away with Man United for a bit. I'm not sure how busy he's going to be after this, so hopefully we can fit another episode in later. Maybe not. Regardless, I'll still be here talking about whatever and commenting on what's going on in the World Cup. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Like and subscribe as always. Leave a review if you could, and I'll see you again later.
This is McClaren Performance.